on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's
Yeah.
been uh it's been a cool reconnecting with you since I don't know what was it right before Christmas, or you seen me at Christmas at Rock Harbor, and then
Yeah, I seen you there a few times. I was like, oh, okay, he goes there as well, and yeah, it's I've been going there for probably 3 years or so.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's been really awesome. It's really helped me out a lot. So
there's a lot of people that go there. It's a huge church. I didn't realize how many people actually went there from all over the valley too.
yeah, I started going to like the 9:45 or the 11:30, and there's just so many people that go to those ones, and then I don't like to wait around and go in the afternoon, so I just started
Yeah,
going to the 8 o'clock. It's way easier to get in, way easier to get good seats, and
yeah.
we used to watch it online a lot, but it's just
It's a
it's
different.
different when you go in
Yeah,
person. So
yeah.
it's been super good.
You
But
guys up front? I think I seen you this last week. I was kind of looking
yeah, I
around.
usually sit like three or four rows back on the
Yeah,
left of the
yeah,
stage, not the far left, but like
yeah. The second little
yeah, the
section.
second little section
Yeah.
there, and so. It's been really good. My girlfriend or fiance now, she was going there before we met, and so that's how I found out about him. And it's been really good. A lot of people that I'm friends with at work and stuff have slowly started to go with me. So now, at most, I've had 3 people from work come with me, and then their families too. So it's been really good.
Yeah,
Just
you said you had like what, 14 people at Christmas? You had to
yeah,
reserve a whole row.
The Christmas Eve service, we had 14 people
Yeah,
with us, so it was
that's
really
cool.
cool. It's just like when you work with different people and they see you have a different light about you, I guess. They start to ask questions, like what's changed in your life? What are you doing differently that you weren't doing before? And well, let me share it with you. Let me take you with me. And so it started to slowly traverse into like it's a really good opportunity to share the gospel with people, and so it's not just about them, it's about me too. It helps me stay where I need to be when I'm helping other people find God as well. And so it fills my cup up just as much as it hopefully fills theirs up. but
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I get that.
but yeah, it's been I grew up LDS, so it's a lot different than being Mormon.
Yeah.
I was Mormon from the time I was born till I was 18 years old, and
Yeah, where'd you grow up?
I was born in Emmett, and lived there for till I was in kindergarten, and then when I was at kindergarten age, I moved to Cuna. My grandparents had a farm out in Cuna that had since like 1976, and so they had 10 acres out there. And my grandparents were like, "Hey, we're getting older. How about you guys? How about my mom was their daughter, obviously, and so they're like, how about you guys move here and we'll put a double wide on the 10 acres and you guys move into our house." And so we actually moved into the house that my mom was raised in. And so now that we have grandchildren there, it's a 4 generation place. And so it's really cool. And so my mom actually still lives there. And then we just got a place across the street on 8 acres. And so I live right across the street from my mom's 10 acres. And so yeah, I was born and raised in Cuna. Went to kindergarten through 12th grade in Cuna. Bought my first house in Cuna. Still in Cuna.
Yeah, there's
So
nothing out there probably when you grew up.
no, not at all. It's
Not
grown a
like it is
lot.
now.
It's grown a lot. It's changed a lot, but yeah. So we're still out in Cuna, and that's where I was born and raised, on a farm out there, and always been kind of into the cattle and farming atmosphere. Always in my adult life, I've bought in 2 separate farms. I had one out in Nampa, and then I also had one out in Emmett as well. And then life just kind of took me back to Cuna, and so I've been back in Cuna since 2022. But yeah, I've always kind of enjoyed that country lifestyle. It's how I was raised, having cows, and so now that we have that back, it's really bittersweet when your life changes and then you get that back. It's a lot sweeter the second time around than
Yeah.
I had to earn it this time. I had to earn it, and so it's a lot more sweet. I wake up every day, and I'm just so grateful for everything that I have, and um, it's such a blessing. It's so cool. And so yeah, my life's been super blessed, and so yeah, I've been out in Cuna for most of my life. I don't know if we'll stay there. I don't know if we'll stay in the valley either. It's just grown so much, and housing market's crazy. Interest rates are hopefully going to get better, but it's just expensive. And so we've been looking up in like Idaho City and Marsing. And we've looked as far as Grangeville too, just to be able to get more property, more bang for your buck, if you will. So,
Yeah.
but for now, we're happy. We're in a really good place, and so we'll just kind of see where it takes us.
Yeah. So
But
what
yeah.
was life like growing up on a farm? Did you do sports stuff too, or was it just pretty much just a cattle life?
So I wasn't like super great at sports. I mean, I was okay. I played baseball through high school. I never traversed to like college or anything like that. But all through my grade school and all through high school, I played baseball. And my brothers all played baseball as well. And one of my brothers, he played basketball, he played baseball, and he still is really into sports and stuff. But yeah, mostly I was just as a kid growing up, I was just out on the farm. I'd just get home from school and take my BB gun outside and go shoot Tweety birds and take my dogs out and did a lot of pheasant hunting because our property butted up to a wildlife. It's now a wildlife preservation, but back then it was not. And so I could just walk our property line um, down our field and into this big open area and just go shoot pheasants and stuff. So yeah, I was never that kid that was growing up that played video games or sat in front of the TV, and it's changed a lot now. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and it's she has that country lifestyle right at her fingertips, and she doesn't really embrace it too much. But every kid's different. But but yeah, it's for me. It was never TV. It was never video games. It was just about being outside and enjoying life, and having friends over. And given that, because not everyone gets that lifestyle as they're a kid growing up, I was super fortunate to have that. And so a lot of my friends wanted to come over and like go hunting and go shoot birds because they just didn't have that ability just to walk outside and do that. And so I always liked working on, like, I had a truck in high school. It was just like an old 1987 Nissan pickup, but I was always outside working on that in the shop and just tinkering with that and doing stuff like that. So I've always really had a passion. Like my grandparents were really into the country lifestyle. My grandpa was really into horses and he was really into chickens. It seems really stupid, but like he was like a big chicken farmer. And so he got me into that. And so my main hobby growing up in middle school and not so much in high school, I kind of grew out of that because when you're in high school, it's like different. Like you want to hang out with your friends and do that. But all through middle school, like I was a big chicken farmer. So like I would, I was in 4-H and had a bunch of chickens that I would just, utilize for 4-H. And then I had a bunch of stock that I would use just for eggs, and I would sell eggs as a kid just to make extra money and stuff like that. And so it was really fun. And then my grandpa was really into like fighting roosters, which there's, not many people know much about those, but there's a huge market for these game roosters. And so as a kid, I used to raise those and sell them. But with those, you got to isolate them. If you put them together, they're gonna fight and stuff. So I had like these big barrels that I would have to attach them to, kind of like a hawk. You know how they have those cables on them with the leather strap on their leg, and they had like a 5 foot radius, and I would just have a whole pasture just full of them, and I would raise them from chicks, and then I would sell them when they became adults. Back then when I was in middle school, I would sell them for like $100 a piece. So that was a lot of money as
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and my grandpa was super proud of me because he got to the point where he couldn't really go out and do it anymore. And so I kind of lived his legacy on with that, and so I kind of instilled that in my daughter. My daughter did 4-H with chickens, and so I'm gonna get back into it here this spring. But it's always been something I've been passionate about, that and cows, and I've always raised cows as a kid and in my adult life too. And it's just something I'm passionate about. Whatever, everyone has different interests and hobbies, but for me, that was what gave me a lot of joy, is just working hard outside and raising cows and just living off the land, kind of a thing. So that's what I did most of my childhood. Um, so I had a really good childhood. My dad was a police officer all through my dad still is. My dad's a detective for Canyon County now, but all through my childhood growing up, my dad was a Meridian police officer. And so that's kind of always what I wanted to do, but in this day and age, it's so challenging. Just all the political stuff that's involved with being in law enforcement today. It's something I didn't really want to do anymore. But at age 20, that's what I still wanted to do, and so that's why.
Growing up, you want to be in law enforcement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just wanted to follow my dad's footsteps, and so that's kind of why I worked at the prison and started there. My dad's like, if you want to get into law enforcement, you're too young right now, because I wasn't even, I was only 20 at the time. He's like, start working out at the prison and do a couple years and see if it's really something you'd be interested in. So I, started doing that and did that for 10 years. So, but yeah,
When you grew up Mormon, did you think you were going to go on a mission or anything? Or
I did actually. So I have three brothers, and out of all my brothers, only one of them went on a mission. One of them went on a mission for 2 years and completed it. And when I was 18 years old, like, I had a high school girlfriend, and I, was with her for, 2 or 3 years of my high school career. And like, it was hard for me because I was like, man, is she gonna like still be there when I get back? And like, it was a really hard decision as like a kid. I was like, I thought this was it. I was gonna get, ultimately did get married to her. But I was like, man, if I leave, is it gonna, are you gonna be here when I get back? And I was psyching myself out about it, but I proceeded a little bit further with it, and I made the decision that I was gonna go. And then there's, a bunch of interviews and processes that you have to go through in order to be worthy to go on a mission. You have to go through interviews with like higher ups in the church, and they ask you all these questions. And at the time growing up in high school, I drank alcohol, and I was pretty always really responsible as a teenager. I was always really a responsible person, but in high school, a lot of people get wrapped up in drinking, experimenting with alcohol and things like that. So
like bonfires and stuff?
yeah, just bonfires and just being a kid, and so when I went through the process of trying to go on my mission, I wasn't dishonest with the people that I was being interviewed by, and so ultimately I was kind of determined that I wasn't worthy to go at the time. And so I could have easily, um, went through the steps and repented and did those things that it would take to become worthy. But at that point, I was like, well, if I'm not good enough now, and this was when I was a young kid, but if I'm not worthy now, then I'm just going to move on with my life. And so I did, and I just kind of let that go. But yeah, it probably would have been a blessing in my life if I would have chosen to go, but it just I wasn't in the right mindset at the time. I was a young kid. I was 17 years old, like, I
Yeah.
had a lot of life experience to still learn, and a lot of hardships to go through and learn from still. And so yeah, 18 years old, I just decided not to do that, and had to, a couple dead end jobs for a while before I, ultimately decided to work at the prison. There were some steps before that occurred, but yeah, I just ultimately didn't go just because I didn't pass the first interview, and I felt kind of judged by that, and I was like, well, I'm here, I'm ready to go, like, I want to go, but it was just like, you're not going to get the green light to go. You're not living your life the way that you should be, and so you're at this moment you're not able to go. And so as a rebellious young person, I was just like, you know what, I'm not even going to try. And so I just moved on with my life at that point. But
Were you pretty active in the Mormon church growing up, like in baptized and
yeah, I was
at 8 and
baptized.
12, right? 12 the other one?
Yeah, so the LDS religion, they pretty much cultivate everyone, if you're in that religion, to be baptized by you're 8 years old. And
Hmm.
so my daughter was baptized in the LDS religion when she was 8, and that's just kind of the standard um, for that religion. And so yeah, I was baptized at 8 years old. I went to church every Sunday with my family. I went to I was in Boy Scouts, got my Eagle Scout, and went through all that stuff and went to church every week and went to all the get-togethers and went to the temple and did all that stuff as a kid growing up. But that's whatever you're doing as a kid, whatever your parents raise you to be, or what they think is right, is ultimately what you're gonna believe in. That's why it's such a big responsibility to be a parent, is like you're cultivating a little human. And so I always grew up thinking that was the only way to be, and that I needed to live my life by all these rules. And ultimately I'm grateful that my parents raised me in a church,
Yeah.
because it whether there's so many religions out there, but at the end of the day, most religions have a good baseline of like ethics and morals and doing the right thing. And
Yeah.
ultimately there's a good foundation in most churches.
Yeah, I agree.
And so
And the Mormons have really good family values. Like
yeah,
it's
they're very helpful. They're very willing to, if there's someone in need in the church, whether it's financially or food or just simply moving from from one house to another house. Like they're very good about just helping other people. And so that's what I really like. But I've in my adult life I've found that that's most religions are that way.
yeah.
They just want to help other people, and that's really why we're here, on earth, is just to help other people. We need to be selfless. And so I was really grateful to learn that as a kid growing up, and instilled that. Even though in my 20s I strayed away from that, I always had that foundation to fall back on. Even though I was rebellious and wanted to do my own thing, and I can do this without God. Like I always had that foundation to fall back on that was instilled in me as a kid. And so I was grateful that my parents taught me that.
Yeah. What was your
But
Eagle Scout project?
so at like the middle school in Cuna, or I guess it's one of the middle schools now, but it was the elementary school at the time. It was I just built like this huge room with all these shelves and stuff inside of it to basically store for people that like wanted to donate clothes or shoes or jackets or whatever it was. They had a place to walk in, and they could organize the shoes by size. They could organize the clothes by girls and boys, and also by sizes. So I just got a bunch of people together, and we just basically remodeled the room and built a bunch of shelves, and so it was pretty cool. But
Nice.
yeah, the Boy Scouts was cool. Like it was really good foundation. Something that instills in you, like you got to. There's a lot of it's years of processes to go through to achieve that. But then all the cool things you get to do amongst while you're in the process, like I got a small boat sailing merit badge, a canoeing merit badge, a rifle shooting, rock climbing, wilderness survival, like just a bunch of different cool things that I had to, for one merit badge, there's a list of things that you have to accomplish in order to get that. And so it was a really cool experience. So every year we'd go to scout camp up in McCall, and I'd stay there for a week with a bunch of my friends that I went to school with, but we also went to church with them too. And so it was just kind of a cool bonding experience, just to go up in the woods with your friends and leaders that you respected and had a bond with, and just go camping for a week and do that.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I was grateful I did it, and all three of my brothers got their Eagle Scouts too. So all four of us went through that whole process, and I was super grateful for that. It taught me a lot of good stuff. So
Yeah, for sure. I wish I would have done it. I went to like one Cub Scout meeting and I was like, no.
yeah,
I had other stuff going on in my life too, but I wish I would have done it. There was a lot of cool stuff.
yeah,
And I still don't know how to tie all the knots.
yeah. I wish I could remember how to tie all the knots, man, because there's a lot of cool knots you can tie out there. And now that I do what I do for a living, like sometimes I'm like trying to yank stuff onto a roof, and it's like, man, I wish I could remember half those knots. And all I can do is like a double knot and just hope it holds. But there's a lot of cool stuff that I learned, and it's just about commitment, just following through, and that traverses into your adult life too. Just starting something, and it may not be easy to accomplish it, but like it shows dedication and drive. And so like I wanted to be in the Air Force when I was younger, And like I went to get like enlisted and talked to a recruiter, and just because I had achieved an Eagle Scout, like you would start out as an E3
Oh, really?
instead of, just starting from ground zero. So that was pretty cool. So that the military actually recognized like an Eagle Scout as an accomplishment, and you'd start out with a little bit of rank versus no rank at all. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, didn't end up going into the Air Force. But
Yeah. What veered you away from that?
oh man, that was in like 2010. I was still young and dumb, and I don't really remember what traversed me from not accomplishing that. It I honestly don't remember if it was just scared. Like once I got my feet wet and talking to a recruiter and understanding what it actually takes to join the military. I don't know if I was just too timid at the time or didn't want to leave home or what it was, but it just kind of fell through. But I definitely investigated it, and I wanted to do something like that. But then I ultimately kind of started out at the prison kind of around that same time too. So it was just kind of like,
Yeah.
let's move on and just start a career and do that. So, but yeah, my littlest brother, he actually joined the Marine Corps and did his time in there, and it was good for him. He just did his like 4 years, and then he had the option to get out during COVID, and so he got out of the Marine Corps during that time. But I think anybody that joins the military is awesome. Like I think that's a great thing to do, and it's great to serve your country and do that. And it also shows dedication and drive, and you're willing to do something that most people aren't willing to do, which I think is admirable for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just never worked out.
It's cool to have like a brotherhood too.
Yeah,
Like get that camaraderie and
yeah, and like all the people that he went into the military with, like it's been years now, but he's still in touch with a lot of those people, and it's a brotherhood that you can't really replicate, So I commend him for doing that. But yeah, it just never worked out for me. Maybe I wasn't supposed to do that, but I was just young and trying to figure out where my niche was and what I was gonna do, and life just takes you in a completely different direction sometimes than you want it to go. But back then I was steering the ship, and now today it's a lot different. I'm not. I try to relinquish control and let God be in control of most everything in my life, and it's hard to do because I'm an extremely OCD person. I've been that way my whole life. Everything's a process. Everything's rigid. Everything's meticulous, and so it was the hardest thing for me to do was to let go of control and just be like, I need to give this to God, and and that happened within the last couple years. And I tell you what, like once you get to that point in your life, it's amazing. It's just a big weight off of your shoulders. We're not designed to be in control,
yeah.
and so it's changed like who I am on a day-to-day basis. Now I still fight like the OCD tendencies, and all my house and all my vehicles and everything are always clean and organized, and there's that aspect of it. It's really hard to fight it, but just in the grand scheme of things, most of it, I just finances, family, any important decisions I need to make, I just pray about it, and try not to be in control.
Yeah, that's huge. So, you were 20 when you started the prison?
Yeah, so I was, yeah, 20 years old. Um, did not know what I wanted to do with my life. It kind of, I had to get responsible extremely quick because, I was in my early 20s. I was drinking a lot. I was partying a lot. I had a dead end job making minimum wage. And the girl who I was with in high school, she ended up getting pregnant. And so that's how I had my 14-year-old. And so I was, didn't have a really good job. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't have retirement, and didn't have any of that. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to be a father, unprepared, a 20-year-old kid. And I was like, I got to get something going, that where I can provide. And so my father told me, he's like, I would start, if you want to get into law enforcement, start out at the prison, get your feet wet, see if that's something you really want to do. And so I applied out there and got the job. So yeah, I started out there when I was 20 years old. Um, or I guess probably like right after I guess back then they changed it to 18, but back then you had to be 21. So I went through the interview process when I was 20, but I had just turned 21, like just barely. And so I was just 21 years old and started working out there. And I did not anticipate me staying there that long at all.
Where'd you get started at? What facility?
So I started at ISCI. So that was the medium security facility.
Mm.
Um, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I've always liked helping people. I've always been a natural born leader my whole life. People have always gravitated towards me. And I liked just the leadership of like inmates. They're in some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them want to change, some of them don't. But I really liked helping the inmates that wanted to change, and that filled my cup. I was like, some of these guys, they went through addiction or they went through a bad experience or they made a mistake, but some of them learn from it. Not all of them do, but I would say a fair amount wanted to change, and so I just like being a mentor. I would be a prison guard if I had to, but most of the time a lot of it was communication, as you know, just communicating with people, and so I fell in love with it, and so I was just like an RFM, relief person, just bouncing all over to different housing units. Didn't really have a lot of responsibility. It was kind of easy just to eight in the gate kind of a thing, and I was given an opportunity to work in the behavioral health unit. Shortly, like right after I got out of the academy, I was maybe an RFM for like 3 months, and so at ISCI, I don't know if you've ever worked in the BHU there, but um, I just fell in love with working with those really difficult inmates, like really challenging inmates to talk to. And you couldn't hold them accountable the same way that you could hold an inmate accountable in G Block at ISCC. Is completely different mindset. And communication was like the most important thing. Like you got to use your communication skills. So I was given an opportunity to walk into that position, day shift, with a consistent schedule, consistent days off. And so I started working in there, and I stayed in there for a long time, like several years, just kind of dealing with the same inmate population, dealing with the same staff, because it was an exempt post. And so a lot of the guys stayed in there, that were in there from when I started in there. And so I got to learn from them and get familiar with the difficult inmates and just all the treatment plans and things like that. And so I did that for a few years, and then promoted to corporal in like I was like 22, 23 when I promoted to corporal. And then I went to like just a GP worker unit 13 there at ISCI, and I was then there for a year. And then I during bid time I put in to go to be a corporal back in the BHU on day shift, and then I got selected for that. So I went back to the behavioral health unit again, and I was just getting my feet wet in there as a corporal, and then I got promoted to sergeant. And then, but I got promoted to sergeant at a different facility. So then I went to SICI, South Idaho Correctional Institution, for 4 years. I was there for a long time. So
What was that like going to from a medium to minimum?
it was so much fun. I mean, it was really fun. It was probably the best time of my career. Um, because there as a sergeant, you're a shift commander there. And so I went from like being a corporal in a housing unit where there's, a sergeant above you, there's shift commanders above you. You're just kind of like a mid-level supervisor, not really a lot of decision making or not a lot of validity to that position. It was just like a lead worker. So I went from that to like, now I'm running a shift, and now I'm in charge of absolutely every decision that's made is going through me. And so it was kind of intimidating at first, but it was really good for me because I was young when I promoted to sergeant. I was 24 years old, and it was hard to like when I first promoted to sergeant, like a lot of the guys at ISCI were like, "Who is this guy? He's 24 years old. He's just a brown noser, good old boy," and there's a lot of that out there. But it was hard to earn respect. If you promote at the same facility, sometimes it's like people are like, "Well, why didn't I get that position?" or "How is he better than I am?" And there's a lot of judgment and a lot of just, you know how it is.
Yeah.
And and so it was really easy for me to promote to sergeant to a new facility because no one knew me. And so I was like a clean slate. And so I was like, okay, now I can like be in charge of the reputation that I want to have, and I can start fresh. Like I want to be a really good leader. And so it was super awesome. I really, really loved it. It was an absolute awesome time.
Did
Like,
you find more rewarding with the minimum security because they have a lot more to lose? Maybe they wanted to change more than the mediums.
they had a lot more to lose. And so like if an inmate makes a mistake at SICI, like we transfer them to a medium security facility. They know that. It's not like ISCC or IMSI or ISCI. Like you make a mistake, you go to restrictive housing for 30 days and you come back out with maybe your points are higher on your classification. But there, it's like if you mess up, you're out. Like, and so as far as managing the inmate population, it was super simple. Like it was just more about contraband because they were leaving a good, when I was doing count, I'd have like 300 out counts, guys that were completely out of the facility, and so it was more about contraband reduction because everyone was bringing in drugs, everyone was bringing in
Chew and all that.
chew and all that stuff. So it was more about just more investigation stuff, more bringing in dogs, more doing a lot more searches, a lot more intel. Um, but it was so relaxing working there. I really enjoyed it. And so I was a shift commander there for 2 years. And then I put in for operations and training. And I was the operations and training sergeant for 2 years there. And I absolutely love that job because it worked so well with my personality because I'm so OCD and so meticulous that like building schedules and managing staff and managing training and keeping track of all the records, like it was super easy for me. And I just absolutely loved it because I remember what it was like to be an officer and asking for a day off was just a challenge, or asking for a training opportunity was a challenge, or asking for someone just to advocate for you was a challenge. And I remembered being an officer, and I was like, if I get into a position like this, I'm gonna make it different. I'm gonna make it to where people feel valued. People feel like I always remember the operations office being super intimidating. Like if you went in there, you felt like you were bothering them. If you were asking for a day off, you felt like it was gonna be a no. Like I had an open door policy. I made my office so comfortable. I brought in some comfortable chairs. I put a little coffee table in there. I always had a candy jar. I painted the walls. I put a bunch of pictures that had nothing to do with prison, and people would just come into my office and just sit and chill. And like that's the atmosphere that I wanted to create because I remember what it was like being an officer and just being so intimidated to go in there and being so intimidated to ask for time off, and just I felt like I was always bothering them, and I just wanted to have like this different feel. And so being able to be that is one of the most to me that's one of the most important positions out there, that literally you're taking care of the staff. Like that's the most important thing. And so that was probably out of my 10 years there, that was like the highlight of my career, I would say. Is like those people that like never were given a chance because they had this reputation of, oh, that guy's just an eight in the gate guy. Those are the guys that I wanted to get respect from. Like this the disgruntled, difficult people. Like those are my targets. And those are still my targets today, not in the prison world, but just in life. Like those people that are hard to get a hold of and hard to get into their heart. And so like I absolutely love that position. Like I was really good at it. I loved it. And like if I could go back, if I had to go back to the prison and do something, that would, I really loved that time. Like I really enjoyed taking care of staff because you see so many people out there just get murdered with overtime and just not treated correctly, and you're just a number. And like for me, like it was, no, we're going to change the narrative. Like it's going to be different. Like it's not going to be the person that I took over for. Like it was that way in that office. It was, the walls were white, there was nothing on the walls, there was uniforms everywhere. Like my office was clean, neat, organized, and people just loved to come in and just talk. And like that's what it's all about. And that really transfers to like who I am as a person, but like I just loved taking care of people and just making people feel valued. Like you're not just a number. You're not just an officer who's going to go walk tiers for 8 hours and do cell searches. And if you don't do it, I'm going to hold you accountable. Like I just loved the challenge of like changing the culture. And that was like, I loved that job. I loved it so much. But I wanted to be a lieutenant, and it was really hard to get. I kept putting in for lieutenant, and I would always make it into like the top 3 in the state. Like, but I would always get passed over by these big institutions. There wasn't a lot of opportunity to promote to lieutenant at as I see it, there's only 2 positions. Like those positions never came open, and if they did, they were transfers. They were existing lieutenants, and I was like, so I knew I was doing a good job. I knew that I was on the radar, but I just couldn't get picked up. And so the last time that I put in for it, I made it to the top 3 again. There was only 3 interviews left. I made it into the top 3, and I got passed up again. And I was like, dang it. So so I went to my deputy warden at the time, and I was like, dude, and him and I were super close. Like I knew him when he was a sergeant. He knew me when I was an officer. And do you remember Davis out there? Tyrell
Yeah,
Davis.
yeah. Mhm.
So that guy I have an utmost respect for. He's a warden now in St. Anthony, but um
Yeah, he was the warden when I was working at ISCI. I think he just transferred to St.
yeah,
Anthony a couple,
yeah,
like
not too
last
long
year.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went to him and I was like, dude, I was like, why can I not get lieutenant? Like, why do I keep getting passed up? And he's like, dude, he's like, and all those guys talk, they know. And they all talk amongst themselves on who they're gonna promote. And so I said, I need you to be honest with me. I said, I need you to tell me what I can do differently. And he's like, the only thing you can do differently is go to a big prison, go to a bigger facility, get your name out there, because we all know that you're killing it here, but we're on our own island out here. We're a small facility, we're at the end of the road, and it's hard to, we can advocate for you all day long, but people are going to promote what they know they're going to get. And that's the safe zone. We're going to do that. And so I was like, all right, man. So at this time I was the operations and training guy, and I had a cush schedule working Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. If I wanted to take a day off, it was really easy to do that. If I wanted to come in late or leave early, I could do that. But I wanted to make a change. I wanted to take my influence and make it greater. And so I said, transfer me. I said, I'll give up everything I have. I'll do whatever it takes. And so I said, transfer me. So I reached out to ISCC. I said, hey, do you guys have any open sergeant positions over there? And he said, absolutely. Like, we'll take you next week. Like, as soon as this pay period's over, we'll take you, and we'll take you as a sergeant. But that was my foot in the door, because I knew that if I got over there as a sergeant, I could show them what I could do, and then I could hopefully get promoted to lieutenant. So I gave up everything. I gave up my cush schedule, my office, my desk job, everything, because I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted my influence to be greater. And so I transferred over there, and and started working as an ASC. And so it kind of felt like a demotion, because I went from like being the guy that didn't have to ask permission to do anything. Like whatever decision I make that was the final decision. And so then I went over there as an ASC, and then I had a shift commander I had to answer to. So it kind of felt like a demotion, but I knew it was for the greater good. Like it was a temporary thing,
Yeah.
like a temporary sacrifice. And so I went over there, and it was a big boy prison, a lot different, and a lot more uses of force, a lot more stress, a lot more staff to manage, a lot more units, a lot more inmates. But I loved it, and it was a good experience for me. And so I started out as an ASC. I gave up that awesome schedule um, for an RDO schedule. So I had 2 graveyards and 2 day shifts, and had to rotate my schedule. So I gave up all that and started doing that, and I did that for, I think there was like 4 months left in the bid year, and then I put in for every exempt post I could think of, and so ended up getting picked for D block, as a sergeant there, and did that for another 6 months, and then ultimately left the prison. But D block, that was a challenge. That was a challenge. I took that unit over from a sergeant that did not care, and let those guys pretty much run the show. And so I didn't have any gray hairs in my beard until that year, and I've never been able to get rid of them since. But super stressful, like a lot of staff, a lot of personalities, a lot of personalities that didn't necessarily get along within the inmate population. Like, I knew they weren't being managed correctly. I knew that we weren't holding them accountable. I knew they were bringing in drugs. I knew that they were, because that D block was like a closed custody PC unit. And
Yeah.
and what I found is what I didn't want to do is come in and make a big change. I wanted to come in and sit in the chair and walk with my staff, and just figure out how it was running now, and then gather information before I made any big changes. And to me, being a leader, that's what you should do. You should evaluate and just understand what the processes are before you make a change. And so I was just talking to everybody, talking to my staff. I recruited all my guys, and I brought in a really good crew, and I relied on them a lot because that was a new facility for me. And I was like, hey, I get I'm the guy with the 3 stripes, but that doesn't mean anything. We're all a team here, and like we have to work together. I'm here for you. And so what I found is that those guys in there were using PC closed custody as a way to get more flexibility. It was ran differently than G block was. There was more flexibility for those closed custody guys in D block than there was in G block. And they used that to run they were still in the gangs, they weren't dropped out, they were still running drugs. I knew all this stuff. And I was like, you guys are using this as a loophole. You found a loophole in the system. And so I started putting the screws to them. I pulled up like all the sanctions that they had from all their DORs and all these property restrictions and stuff. And I was like, man, all these guys still have TVs. All these guys still have their JP5s or whatever those things are called. Like, I'm like, this isn't right. And so, I slowly started implementing all those property restrictions. And then all the walks were huge. Like, the walks were like 8-cell walks. I was letting 16 guys out at a time. And I was like, nope. I was like, these guys aren't behaving. These guys aren't doing what they should be. We're lowering these walks down to 4-cell walks. And what that did, obviously, as you know, that limited the amount of time out they were out, because I lowered it from 8 to 4. There's only so much time in a day. And so I got a lot of pushback, and a lot of threats, a lot of grievances, a lot of lawsuits. I'm actually still going through 2 lawsuits from that unit still to this day. And it's been 5 years since I've been out of there.
Jeez.
But yeah, I knew that they were putting the wool over the last administration's eyes, and I said, this isn't going to happen. And so what slowly started to occur, and I knew that I was doing the right thing because of it, is all of a sudden we started getting all these inmates that were checking out of PC, and they said, I want to go back to G block. Let me go back to G block. Get me out of here. And I knew I was doing the right thing. I knew I was holding them accountable, and they realized that they weren't going to get away with it anymore. But it was super stressful, man. Like, constant fights. I had a closed custody PC, I had a medium custody PC, and I had a GP tier. So it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot to manage.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so yeah, I ended up leaving.
What
That's like the summer of 2020. So
what
like
was the harder population when you were at Sicky, the men or the women?
the women by far. Oh,
I never worked with them
dude.
specifically, but when they were on my bus and I'd pick them up from the North
Yeah.
Dorm and stuff. It
Yeah,
was the worst. It was the loudest buses we had going to Pocatello, and I can't imagine working in Pocatello full time, but
yeah. And so I was at SICI when we implemented the PRC building to be women. I was like a part of that whole process. Dude, like managing female inmates is way more challenging than men, especially if you're a man. Like it's hard. Like I can't, we never really knew what it felt like to be a female
Get
walking on a
catcalled.
tier in a
Yeah.
with men, but like being a man walking a female tier, dude. Oh my gosh, like it was uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and dude, it was,
And they're gross.
and they're
And like they
gross.
they are not like gross as in, I mean they are.
They
They
are,
but also
yeah.
like the things that they say are just like they should be X-rated kind of stuff. What do
Mm-hmm.
you Yeah, you definitely feel you feel
It
bad
feels
for the women
it feels,
officers in
yeah,
that sense. You're
yeah. It
like,
makes you appreciate what those females go through.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it was, and they, I in my course of time out at the prison, like I saw the most staff get compromised at Sicky than I ever saw in my career anywhere else. Um, it's insane. It was sad to see because these were like people I was friends with. These are people that like I went out for beers with them. Like I never imagined that these people would give up their family, would give up their children, would give up their life for an inmate. And it just when it happens, it blows your mind. It's like,
Looking back, what do you think are like the correlations of the people that decide they want to? I don't, they don't decide they want to get compromised, but it just happens. But like, do you think it's something of their home life? They're not seeing enough attention. Do you think it's just something that the inmates are really good? All they have is time, obviously. But
yeah, I think it comes down to they're ultimately not happy at home. Maybe their marriage isn't good, or maybe they have low self-esteem, and it's not most of the time. It's, as you know, it's not a fast process. It's like I gave him like an extra meal from the chow hall. It starts there. Like, oh, here's an extra one. And then before you know it, you're having inappropriate conversations. You may have shared something in your personal life. Once you do that, they got something on you. And hey, you remember that one time you told me that? Like, remember that one time you did that for me? Like, I don't want to have to tell anybody, but I will. Like, it's game over at that point. And so I was always, I was always really never personable with the female inmates. The males, like, I was never personable with them, but I would have a lot more lackadaisical conversations with them that I would never have with a female inmate, just because I did not want to open that corridor. And the females are different. They're so manipulative. They're so cunning. They're um,
do you think more male officers get what's the word? Get from female inmates, or do you think that there's more female officers that get compromised from male inmates?
it's hard. I mean, based on my memory, I saw it about 50-50. But I saw the most staff, and I wasn't. It was easier to be involved in it at a smaller facility than it was at like ISCI or ISCC. There was a lot of it that happened there too, but there's so much more staff. And so it's like harder, like, oh, you see that officer got walked off the yard today? Like, oh yeah, but you don't really know like what happened. But when I was a shift commander at Sicky, sometimes I was involved in the investigation. Sometimes I would have information that even the management team didn't have. And so I was a lot more involved in it because, that's the leadership team's different at a smaller facility. Like as a sergeant, you're kind of like treated like you're a part of the management team there. You're kind of in those conversations at ISCC. If you're a sergeant, there's like 30 of them. At the farm, there's 6 or 8. So they rely on you more. And I saw a lot of people get compromised there, and the staff that I never thought would. Um, and it was hard to see. These are people that I was friends with, people that I would talk to outside of work, and it just blows your mind when you see it, and you feel bad for them because you know that they made a huge mistake, and now they know they made a huge mistake, but it's too late now. You wish they would ask for help, but it's if you don't have your guard up, and that's in life too. If you don't have your guard up, it's it's easy to get manipulated, for sure.
Did you ever
So,
have any other female inmates turn in other females that were compromising staff, like because they got jealous or anything like that?
oh yeah, there was a lot of that. Um, was a lot of that, but also they weren't always truthful. They were just trying to stir the pot. So just because you get some intel doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
Right.
You know, you had to really look into it and find evidence, watch cameras, do interviews. Um, but usually where there's smoke, there's fire. You know, and so um, yeah, I saw it a lot, and it really hurt me because these are people that I supervise, and I was like, man, like I wish you would have said something to me. I wish you would have came to me and said you were struggling. Like I would have helped you out. You know, I would have gave you guidance or friendship or leadership or mentorship, whatever it looked like at the time. But sometimes you can't help the people. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You know.
Did you ever have anybody like self turn themselves in? Like, I think this conversation went a little bit too far. Or, like, what should I do? Asking for that help, or they just kind of always try and take care of it by themselves?
I've never saw anyone come clean. They always had to be pulled in, and
I wonder how that would turn out if they did. Like just a walking situation
yeah,
rather than like, or like, I wonder how
yeah,
if they maybe move on facilities or something, or I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. I feel
I
like
always know that honesty was best policy with iDog,
yeah,
or
you
any
had
place. Like
yeah.
if you told on yourself, it was a lot better
That's
than
like of anything in any
yeah,
job, really. But what I learned at IDOC is someone's got to fall. Someone's going to fall for it because it's a state agency. There's news reporters, there's the governor, there's the state house, there's all that. They can't have bad publicity. So if there's something that happens, someone's going to be the fall guy. You
yeah,
know, I was there for a long time. So are you. You know how it is. Like,
right.
there's always got to be that guy we dealt with it, you know.
You're right.
This person no longer works here.
That's what I tell everybody. That like that's the best advice I can give you working out of the prison is like if you mess up, just be honest.
Just right up front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one time when I was working for Miller in his unit, I had popped that can of that Mark 9 on myself like 3 months prior.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really nervous about getting up on top bunks to check with my Mark 9 anymore. So every time I get on, I would like just set it on the inmate's table in G block
Yep.
and then get it back and put it back in my holster, right?
Yep.
There was we had a big lockdown, whole unit lockdown where we had CERT come in and X-ray machines and everything was cell to cell looking for weapons and all that. Take the 4 inmates out, put them in the showers, lock them up,
Mm-hmm.
check everything right. So we did that. I checked their cells. I go top bunk, put my Mark 9 on their table, and then get down, go get the inmates, put them back in. I'm walking out of the tier, and I pat myself down, and I was like, "Uh-oh, I left my Mark 9 in their cell."
Oh no. That is not good.
That was I was like, "Oh my gosh." Luckily, it was like a soft walk, and it was the very last cell. But I walk up to him and I'm like, oh my gosh, either they're gonna spray me or something. I was like trying not to tell anybody about it,
Mhm.
and I went up to him and they're just laughing their ass off inside
Yep.
the cell. And I just was like, I'm just gonna try this out. I opened up the bean slaw and they handed it to me. I was like, oh, thank
I
God.
would have put a good C note in for him or
Oh,
something.
dude, I gave them extra lunches that whole week. I was like, give extra lunches, extra breakfast. But immediately after I did that, I went to Miller's office and I was like, this is what happened. I did this. I'd rather you find out from me than
Yeah.
than
Yeah, he's one of the good ones he's got your back.
yeah. So we did. I had to read the whole policy on tool control and everything like that. And there was it was in my file and stuff. But I was like, I do not want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just lucky that nothing else happened. Like if they would have just started spraying me or
Yeah.
oh my
No, that
gosh,
could have gone bad, really, really bad for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that moment, I was like, I got to go tell on myself because there
Mhm.
is no way that I'm going to wait till later on down the road and they're just reviewing cameras for something completely different and they see like
That would have gone completely different.
how did they hand you a Mark 9 through what happened there? Why didn't you tell us? I'm like, oh,
Yeah, that would have been a completely different conversation for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I had a kind of a weird scenario. Do you remember inmate Friedley? No. So anyway, this guy was locking down ISCC every day for like a month. Like every day he was doing something stupid. And I was the ASC for this time during this time period, and every day I was suiting up the team. Every day I was going down there because he was covering his window. And I had him in handcuffs and I brought him into one of the front holding cells by medical. and I released him, and he wouldn't give me my handcuffs back. But this is like the 27th, security emergency we had on him in like 4 weeks, dude. The facility was tired of him. And so my supervisor who was running the shift that day told me, he said, you go down there and you give him a direct order to give you, for him to give you your handcuffs back. And if he doesn't do it, you're going to spray him with your Mark 9. I know what policy says. You're not supposed to spray inmates with handcuffs on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not. And I was like, are you sure?
Yeah,
Like,
capital punishment, right?
like, that's what you want me to
Yeah.
do? You want me to douse him with my Mark 9 if he refuses to give me my handcuffs back? He said, yeah. I said, okay. I was like, as long as you're like gonna stand behind your order, like, I'll do it. So I go down there with the A team and the B team, and I walk up to the cell and I tell him, I was like, hey, you're gonna give me my handcuffs. I'm gonna give you direct order to give me my handcuffs back. And if you don't do it, I'm gonna spray you. He's like, you can't spray me. And I was like, I'm telling you right now, if you don't give me my handcuffs back, I'm gonna give you one more direct order. If you don't, I'm gonna spray you. And he's like, you can't. I said, okay. I said, are you gonna give me my handcuffs back? He said, nope. So I told one of the guys, I said, pop the utility port. I doused him with my Mark 9. Then the warden comes in at about 8:30 that morning. He walks straight to my desk and he says, why did you spray him with OC when he was in handcuffs? You must have really wanted your handcuffs back. And I was like, oh boy. So I looked over at the lieutenant. I said, hey man, this is like your time to tell him, like, these are your orders, man. Thank goodness he vouched for me and said, like, those are my orders. I told him exactly what to do, and he followed my orders. And I didn't get held accountable for it, but there's a lot of that out there, and it's just CYA, communicate, throw yourself on your sword if you make a mistake. But there was a lot of issues like that. It's like there's some gray area, and I had weird circumstances, like I was doing it on a controlled release in A block. The only thing this inmate had on his personal property file was his pair of underwear. And he's like, Sergeant Taylor, please just don't cut my underwear. I promise you I'll give them back to you. You guys can do the unclothed body search, but please don't cut them off. Like, I'm going to freak out if you do. He's like, Sergeant Taylor, I have the utmost respect for you. Please just don't cut my underwear. I had a lieutenant standing behind me in the like the day room part of A block. And he's like, you're going to cut those. You're going to cut those. And I was in the cell hands-on with my team. I made the decision not to cut them off. What is he going to do? Walk in there and tell me, like, you're going to cut them off right now? Like, he's not going to get involved. But he was telling me, like, you're going to cut them off. And I just felt in my heart at the time that I felt like he was gonna follow through with what he said he was going to do. And he was going to give me his underwear after we did the controlled release and secured the door. So I made that executive decision. And he stands up. And I opened the utility port, and he said, thank you so much, Sergeant Taylor. I really appreciate that. And he gave me his underwear. And it was a positive experience, and I gained a lot of trust with that inmate. Very problematic inmate. We always had issues with him. But you know how it is. Like, once you develop a rapport with certain inmates, they don't want to deal with anybody but you. And it was one of those situations where he trusted me. And I got written up for that. The next day I got pulled in and got written up for that. I'm like, really? Like, this was a positive outcome. Like, there was a gray area here, and I chose to do something that I felt was right for this person. He doesn't have anything. This is the only thing he has, and the only thing he cares about in the world today. And it was a weird situation, but I stood behind it. I said, I made the right decision. I'll sign your paperwork. But like it sometimes it's not always black and white. And sometimes you just got to follow what you feel is right in the moment. And I said, I'll sign your paper if that makes you feel better, but
I feel like you got to have a gray area, especially in close custodies or any of those special populations. Like,
yeah,
what's giving them a DOR going to do when they're
yeah,
already locked down 23 hours a day?
yeah. Sometimes you got to think outside the box, man. So many of these guys have so many DORs, and they're never going to not see close custody. A DOR doesn't mean anything to them. You gotta figure out a different way to approach it. And that's what I like doing. I liked thinking outside the box, and I like treating people the way that I would like to be treated if I was in their shoes. It's not just because I wear a badge doesn't make me better than you. It just means I never got caught, right? Like I made bad decisions when I was a kid growing up. I could have been in jail probably a few times as a kid growing up for stupid things that I did. And so I just always viewed it as like, just because I'm here wearing a badge doesn't make me better than you. Like I'm just doing a job, and your life choices made you where you're at. My life choices got me to where I'm at. But I'm not here to hold you accountable. I'm here to just maintain law and order. Like it's not you're already being punished. You're already in prison. Like it's not my job to punish you. Like you're already doing your punishment. Like I'm just here to maintain law and order, and if you treat me with respect, I'll treat you like my next door neighbor. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's just how I did it. And I mean, I could walk into that. It's been 6 years, and I could walk into most of those tiers, and I could probably, I wasn't afraid to shake inmates' hands. Like some inmates were like, or some officers like, I'm never gonna shake an inmate's hand. Like those inmates that I wouldn't shake anybody's hand. But if I had known you for years and we had a mutual respect with each other, as a sergeant, I would walk on the tier and shake your hand all day long. Absolutely. And that's once you extend your hand to them, like that changes the game. Like he respects me enough to shake my hand of an inmate. Like why would you do that? And that's something I learned from one of the wardens that I had. Like I saw him do that, and I was like, that's weird. Like and then I adopted that philosophy of like I've known you for 5 years now. I've known you for 6 years. We've had some rough times. We've had some good times, but at the end of the day, like just extending your hand to them, like it means the world to them. And I would tell my staff the same thing. I said, I don't expect you to shake everyone's hand. Like that's not what I'm telling you to do. Don't walk the tiers and just shake everyone's hand. But once you develop a certain relationship of mutual respect, I'm never gonna fault you for shaking an inmate's hand. I'm not gonna think you're compromised if you shake an inmate's hand. Like that is part of the culture that we should be creating, and that's something I always followed. Like I would I love doing it. Like I just would walk the tiers with my staff, and they would see me do it. They'd be like, "Why are you doing that?" And why not? Like why not? Like there's nothing wrong with shaking someone's hand. And so like I most of the times when I got concern forms or grievances, I would go out on the tier and I would sit at the day room table and I would talk to the inmate about their concern. And I said, if you want me to write this down on paper and give you a response for your grievance, I will, because for your paper trail. But if we can resolve this face to face and I can write on your concern form, this issue was addressed on such and such a date, I'll do that too. And so sometimes they would tell me to pound sand. I want this on paper for my paper trail. But other times it was like, hey, we can talk about this man to man and resolve it right here. And that's every time I got a concern from him, I would go onto the tier and meet with them face to face. And it's just about being a leader, and like that they respected that. I wasn't hiding behind my door. I wasn't hiding behind my computer screen. Like, oh, this inmate has a concern. Let's go talk about it. And I would usually take my corporal with me, and I would try to install that into their leadership skills. Oh, you want to be a sergeant someday? This is how I do things, and I would try to install that in my staff too. And it's just about changing the culture. It doesn't need to be this animosity all the time. Sure, there's plenty of that, but if you can make it somewhat pleasant, why not? And so that's just I really miss some of that. I would never go back, but I do miss the leadership part. Like I had aspirations to be a captain. I wanted to be a warden. I wanted to be make change. And so sometimes I think about it, man, like what if I was still there? But I know I made the right decision, and where I'm at today is a lot better, a lot less stressful. I have a better schedule, and I'm with my family more, and I'm not as stressed at home. But like just talking about it, it's been a long time since I've talked about it, but I almost get emotional just talking about it because it was so important to me. Is just the culture. I just had the worst supervisors. Like my first few years there, like how are you a sergeant? How are you a leader? Like this makes zero sense.
What
And
separates the good leaders from the bad leaders?
to me, it's don't expect anybody to do what you're not willing to do yourself. Like go out and do a cell search. Just because you have a bar or three stripes doesn't make you better. It just means you have more ability to make a change. You have more influence. And the inmates, I mean, obviously they respected the rank more, but it's just it's just about being doing what you're expecting of others. Like you should never tell someone that they have to do something that you're not willing to do. Like that's what it's all about. And I'm super passionate about it. And I kind of forgot how passionate about it I was until we started talking about it. But like I just remember being an officer and I was like, if I ever make rank, like I'm gonna change the narrative. I'm gonna change the trajectory of the way that this is going. Because I'm tired of people treating like I'm tired of supervisors treating officers like they're scum and they don't mean anything. Like these guys are doing a hard job. And like I loved bringing in pizza. Like I loved taking my staff out for lunch. Like I loved giving my staff days off. Like, hey, you need Friday off because you want to go take your family to Lagoon. There's no one to cover your shift. I'll cover your shift for you. Like that's what it's about. And I wish there was more of that out there, and I hope there is still. But it's if everyone did that, like it would have been such a better place to work, you know. And so I just always had when I finally got that call that day that I was going to get promoted to sergeant, I'm like, this is the time. Like I'm going to make change. And I loved being a shift commander because as a shift commander, as you know, like that depending on who it is that day, you know whether it's going to be a good day or a bad day, or whether they're going to be walking on eggshells, or we're going to have a nice chill day, and we know we're going to see him in the tiers. We know he's going to come sign our logbook. Like you knew, like oh, we're never going to see that guy today, or we know he's going to come down, and we know he's going to sit down with us and ask us how our day is going, and actually care. You know, that's the difference. And it you don't know it. It might not mean anything to some people, but to some people, it's going to mean a lot. And and so that's really what I liked about my time out there. And I wanted to go higher. I wanted to do better things, but it just didn't work out. And so,
Did
but
you ever have any of those conversations with the inmates that later on you followed up with them and you could tell that those conversations you had made a difference in their life?
absolutely. I mean, I got tons of inmates swimming through my head right now that I wish I could just go walk the tiers today, and not as an officer, just in street clothes, like on a tour. I wish I could go see them. I wish I could go shake their hand. I wish I could go ask them how they're doing, or how their addictions going, or how their family's doing, or how their kids are. Just it's like not everyone cares, but if you take the time to just ask, like if we're there for 8 hours anyway, why not ask? Like we have nothing better to do but sit at our tier in the bubble or the control center or whatever, like, and do what? Like why not just go make someone's day brighter? Why not go ask them, how can I help you? Like I have some life experience. What are you going through? Like I used to, when I was in D block, I had this really challenging inmate that like had severe mental health. He was a closed custody guy. He had no money, couldn't make phone calls, and like I once a week I would let him come into my office, and this was documented, and I would put it in his file. But I would let him use my phone. I would let him use my phone to call his kid once a week because he had no money, he had no way to talk to him. And I would let him come into my office, and he would sit in my chair right across from my desk, and I would, what's the number? I'd dial the number for him, and I'd let him just talk, and I'd be typing up emails or writing reports or whatever. But like that's what it's all about. Like there we have that ability to do it, so why not?
Yeah.
Like why not? It doesn't always have to be black and white. There's and so like I just loved pushing the envelope a little bit and trying to change the culture. And that's one thing that's kind of hard for me because I wish, I could have stayed, and maybe it wasn't the right thing. God took me to where I'm at today for a reason, but like I really did enjoy it. Like there's so many officers that are going through my head too that I would just love to like talk to, and just walk the tiers and just I just missed that part. There's a lot of stuff I hated about it, a lot of stuff I didn't like, but as a supervisor, you can control your environment. You can control your unit, you can control your shift, you can control your staff, you can control the culture. And that's what I liked is like I can control the culture on my shift. I maybe not be able to control the culture amongst the whole department, but I can make sure that my shift feels cared for. And that was like the most important thing for me. Like I loved writing letters of appreciation for people. Like why does it always have to be a letter of reprimand? Like, why can't you just write good things about people? Well, it's all we talk about is the negative. Like, there's a lot of good things that happen too, but no one writes that down, you know? And so I would just, every month, I would be like, I'm going to write. I used to have a goal for myself. I'd write, 2 to 3 to 4 positive letters for people, and put it in their file, just because who does that? Not that many people do that. They're always just focused on, oh, you messed up. I got to write you up for this. But it's like, why? Do it the other way, you know? And so it was really fun. Like, I really enjoyed my time there. And it came to an abrupt end, and we'll kind of get into what I've been through the last 4 or 5 years. But like, I did not plan on leaving when I left. I just left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't have a party. I didn't, it was just, I was in a really weird time in my life, and I just walked out. And I wish I could have said goodbye to some people. But ultimately it was the first step in a long road of where I came to today. But
Yeah, you left at the peak of COVID too.
yeah, I was right in the midst of
How
that,
was
dude.
how was that when COVID took over as a leader?
It sucked, man. It was super stressful. Um,
Especially in a unit where they're already locked down, and now you got to lock them down even more.
yeah, it was stressful. Like, just it put a lot more work on the officers too. Like, just having to feed everybody, and having to do scheduled rec time, and it was hard on the inmates, I'm sure, but it was really hard on the staff. Really hard on the staff. Just medical call outs, medical appointments, um, visitation, pretty much was canceled. But just all the needs, not the wants, but the needs that we had to meet. It was challenging. It was really challenging. Super stressful. Um, and the staffing levels were terrible. And it's a 24/7, 365 gig, as you know. Doesn't matter if there's not enough staff, you're going to work overtime.
Hmm.
And it was hard. I hated telling people that they had to work overtime. Like, it was really hard for me. Um, but I understood it because I never forgot where I came from. Like, that's one thing that people forget, is when they get rank or they get promoted at any job, is they forget where they come from. They forget what it's like to get that phone call and saying, you got to hold over, and you had your 2-year-old son's birthday party tonight at Chuck E. Cheese and you can't go. Like like that stuff hurts. That I hated making those phone calls. Um, but it was hard. It was really hard for staff. It was hard for a lot of supervisors. It was just a chaotic time. But yeah, I left right in the middle of that. Um, and that was an instant relief. But um, I did not want to leave that way. I didn't want to leave abruptly, but I was making poor choices in my personal life at the time, and I left because of that. And so, um, but it all, now that I look back to 2020, and then now it's 2026, everything that happened from then to now, it was all by design. Every mistake I made, every poor choice I made, all the good choices I've made now, it was a God thing. I just it didn't feel like that at the time, like, at all.
And did you have faith any of this time when your prison time, or did you kind of go away from after high school?
I went away after high school, so yeah, when I was 20 years old, all through my 20s, I never went to church. Um,
And you were drinking quite a bit during the 18 to 20 era, you said, right?
yeah, thought I was cooler than I was. I had my first moved out right after high school, had my own house. I could do whatever I wanted to do.
Oh, you bought your own house?
I didn't. I was renting a house
Oh,
from my grandma.
yeah, yeah.
Just paying like $250 a month for rent. Just like, I thought I owned the world, man. I was like, I got my own place. I can do whatever I want. And I just, I started drinking, but it never got me in trouble during that time. And then I, you know, found out that not even my girlfriend, I mean, she was my girlfriend through high school, but I found out that she was pregnant, and we weren't really seeing each other very often back then. We had split up, and it just kind of happened, and I found out I was going to be a father. So I got responsible. All through my 20s, I was really responsible, but I did not have God in my life at all. Like I was in control. I was Travis has got this. I got a good job. I got the house. I got the boat. I got the truck. I got the jet skis. I got the money. I'm good. Like I don't need God, And so I drank all through my 20s. Um, and then yeah, and then when I started, I was always kind of a drinker, but it wasn't ever over the top. It was just social. Um, and then when something bad happens in your life, all your addictions, if you will, or just things that you do, they can become addictions. And so for me, like really why I'm here today is to kind of talk about this. But when I was in 2020, I was married. I had a daughter who was 8 years old. I had a beautiful home. I had everything that anyone would ever want. I had a great career going. I had it all. But I didn't go to church. I didn't think about God. I didn't pray. Um,
You said your daughter got baptized when she was 8,
yeah,
so
she
it was
was
that
8.
same year?
Yep. Yep. And, it was a really good time in my life. I was really pretty happy. Um, I never thought that I was going to make it to this in my adult life. Like I had everything that I wanted materialistic wise. And I was like, man, life couldn't get better. I had cows in the field. I had the nice house. I had it all, man. And I got cocky. And and so at this time, it was 2020 or 2019 going into early 2020, mostly 2019 though, the end of 2019. Um, my marriage wasn't great. I wasn't really putting a lot of work into my marriage. Um, my wife at the time, we didn't really have any intimate relationship. We didn't really tell each other we loved each other. It was more of a business arrangement. Like we got to run a household. We have a kid we're raising. But my marriage wasn't great. And at the time, I had just transferred to a new prison. I was working a crappy shift. I was running a farm. My wife at the time was working terrible hours. So I was like running the farm, trying to sleep, um, trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good employee. And I was burning the candle at both ends. Like I was burnt out. And my wife at the time knew I was burnt out. She's like, Travis, like you need to take a vacation. Like you need to do something for yourself. Like I can see it. You're not in a good place. And I was not in a good place at all. And I was starting to drink a little bit more, starting to take shots of whiskey before I went to work. Um, just starting to kind of start to drink a little bit more than I should be. And like I would literally like, and I'm not here to like not tell all the dirty stuff. Like that's what I'm here to do. Like I would literally take 4 shots of whiskey while my diesel truck was warming up before I went in for shift. Like I would just, and it didn't even phase me because my tolerance level was so high. Like it just mellowed me out. And then before I knew it, I was grabbing some road beers on the way home from work and drinking them on the way home and stuffing the cans underneath my truck seat. Like I didn't care. I thought I was invincible. And and so my marriage was on the brink of, collapse, and maybe not to her, but to me it was. And we weren't talking about it. I just was shouldering all this. And so ultimately what happened is I got attention from another woman, and ultimately in a very abrupt way decided to leave my wife and my family just for what? At the time it felt like this was the right decision. And it absolutely was not the right decision at the time, but at the time it felt that it was. And and so over the course of like 2 weeks I didn't even know this person very well. And it starts small, when you do something like that. And it's easy to judge people. I'm sure I was judged immensely for it. Um, but no one understands what someone's going through, you know? And it's easy to look at it and be like, man, this guy's a dirtbag. And I was a dirtbag for what I did. Um, but people, they love to talk about the negative side of things. Oh, look what Joe's doing, or look what Sam's doing. But I left my family, I literally did it overnight. One day I woke up and I was out. Like I left my daughter, I left my wife, I left my farm, I left all the animals, I left everything. And it was hard for me because I knew that everybody at that prison knew what was going on. Like everybody knew. And what is Sergeant Taylor doing? But to me, I I I was doing the right thing, and I didn't care what anyone else thought. And to this day, I don't really care what people think about me, but I think about it in a different way. It's hard to explain, but then it was just I was stubborn, and I was like, I don't care what you guys think about me, and so it was really hard because I built up such a like an importance of what people did think about me that I knew that my reputation was smashed. And like, what is this guy doing? Like, he just left his family. Like, he's making terrible decisions. He just left his wife for another woman. And it's a terrible thing. Like, it's an absolute terrible thing. And I've made amends for all that, now. But back then, I didn't care about anybody but myself. I didn't care about my daughter. I didn't care about my ex wife and what she was going through at all. Like, I only cared about what I was doing. And I became a terrible supervisor. I was still at the prison at the time. It became all about me. And it was really hard for me to be there amongst staff because I knew that my reputation was tarnished. And I knew that what people were saying behind my back. And I knew that I was already committed, but I knew that I wasn't really making the best decisions at the time. Like, but I was already full in. And so I had to just go. And so it became really hard for me to be a supervisor and try to tell people how to be when I wasn't being the person that I was raised to be. And so that's ultimately why I left the prison, because I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I couldn't look at staff in the eyes and give them advice because of the way that I was. Like I was like, I cannot do this. Like it's killing me to be here. And so I left just overnight. Like I just went home one day and I just sent an email. I said, I'm done. I just threw away a 10-year career. And ultimately now it's a blessing. But at the end, it was hard. I was like, I just literally threw away my wife, my house, my daughter, everything, my career, all at once. Like everything at once. And this was like 2 weeks ago. My life was great. I could have worked on my marriage. I could have went to counseling. I could have, and today looking back on it, I'm glad that we're not married anymore. Like, and we've made amends on that. And I don't think she was the person I was supposed to be with for the rest of my life. But regardless of that, I should have never done it the way I did it. But at then that time, I didn't care about anybody but myself. And so that's why I left the prison. I left the prison because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't give advice or leadership to anybody else because I didn't respect myself anymore. And so I just left. And so my life was super chaotic after that. I left my family. I went all in on this girl that I barely knew. And my family, my mom, my dad, my 3 brothers, they're all like, what are you doing? Like, they didn't know about any of this either until I did it, They're like, oh, I didn't even know you're having marriage problems, you know? And so based on the way that I left my family and I got together with this other person, they didn't respect her. How could you do this? How could you be with a man that has a family? How could you even entertain this? And so because of that, the person that I chose to be with at the time didn't get along with my family at all, and my family didn't get along with her. And so for 2.5 years, I didn't talk to my family at all. And I'm very close to my family. I talk to my brothers every day. I talk to my mom every day. And I cut them all off for this one person. Cut everything off, lost a career, lost my family, lost my wife, lost everybody and everything for one person. And I hated myself, but I had to act like I didn't hate myself. And it was super hard. I've always been a fighter, and I had to press forward, and so I just faked it. I just created this mental block in my brain that I don't have a family. Like, this is my only person now. I'm going to cut everybody else off. This is the only thing I have. And so I was with that person for 2.5 years, and it was utter chaos. the whole time. Like I was fighting myself because I cut everybody else off, and I knew that in my heart that wasn't the right thing to do. But what other option did I have? Like I was like, I already committed. I'm just gonna commit, and I'm just gonna go full in on this relationship. And so I made it last for 2.5 years, and I was didn't know what to do for a career. I had lost that. I had lost everything that I had built up throughout my whole 20s. Didn't have God at the center of it, and it just all crashed down. I mean, I was with this person for 2020, all of 2021, and partially into 2022 before it all came falling down. And we had bought in a place in Emmett, had a 5-acre farm there, had 30 head of cattle, built a new life, right? But it was all based on material items. Like I had a nice house again, I had the cows again, I had the trucks again, I had the trailers, the four-wheelers, anything I ever wanted. I had all the money in the world. It was good, right? It's all materialistic items. But what slowly started to happen is over the course of those few years, it started to eat at me that I'd cut everybody off in my family. I had no family. And that's what it's all about. I had nobody. I only had this person and her family. And I was like, and it started to cause relationship problems because of that. I was like, it started to eat me up. And so ultimately that relationship crashed. And I left all that stuff, all the cows, the house, the trucks, the trailers, the four-wheelers, the shop, everything I had that I rebuilt again, and I left it again. So then twice now I've lost everything. In 2022, I'd lost everything again. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm just fumbling and fumbling and fumbling. There's another pick six. And I'm like, what am I doing? So at this moment in my life, I didn't have God in my life. I had no material possessions again, which at this moment in my life, that's all I cared about. My self worth was based on what I had and what I could show people. And I had no self respect. So what did Travis do? Travis became an addict and became a severe addict. And so I'd always been a social drinker, like we had said before, but this was on another level. Um, I was a 32-year-old man who was acting like he was 21, just going out to the bars, drinking all the time. And it became so bad, like it wasn't just going out with friends. Like I was an addict, 100% addict. I would drink before work, I would drink during work, I would drink after work, I would drink all night, and then I would start over in the morning and do it every single day. Um, and I was managing it, for a while. I wasn't a good father at that time. I had got my family back. As soon as I left that relationship, I reestablished my relationship with my family. I reestablished my relationship with my brothers, my mom, my dad. I got mended all those relationships, but Travis wasn't Travis. Like I was never like this in my life, and I just didn't care. Like I wanted to die. Like I didn't care. Like I could have easily killed somebody easily with how drunk I got on a daily basis, and I didn't care. Like I didn't even think about taking Ubers or calling someone to pick me up. I did not care. I would drink like had an Uber coming all night long, but I didn't have one coming because I just didn't care. And so ultimately I maintained that for 6 months, and then I got a DUI, and never been in trouble before in my life. And
What happened there? What happened on your DUI?
so I was out with some friends at a poker party that I was working with, some friends that I was working with, and we got together in the evening, and I was drinking, and I chose not to drive my truck back to Meridian from Middleton, but I had taken about 2.5 hours off of drinking, but I drank a lot before that. So I get back to a friend's house, I take the keys back, grab my truck, grab a beer out of their fridge, crack the beer as I'm walking to my truck because I don't care, and start driving down the road, and get pulled over. And this was the night, I think this was a God thing because I I could have been caught so many hundreds of other times and been way more drunk. This was the night that God wanted me to get caught because I was over the legal limit, but just slightly. I was like 1 12-ounce beer over the legal limit. I remember everything about the process. I remember the conversation. I remember everything. But, I got to, pull me over, asked me if I had been drinking. I said yes, and had an open container at the time. I always had one. And, uh, and so they, pull me out, do the breathalyzer, all that stuff, blew just over the legal limit. Still should have been caught many times. Definitely not arguing that. And I had a full beer still. I just cracked it open and brand new truck. And I shoved the beer underneath my passenger seat and dumped the whole thing out on my brand new floor. Didn't care. And ultimately got caught. They searched my truck. They found the open container. I got charged with that too. Went to jail. Bailed myself out. Complete depression. I was already depressed, but I was happy when I was drinking. That's what people do. They mask they're not when they're in addiction, they're not happy. And the only time that they are happy is when they're masking their problems. And that's all I was doing. I hated myself. So I was always masking. I was always on something. And and so, got the DUI and just, you know, I just remember that day going to the next day. I had enough money at the time. I bailed myself out that night with cash, went to the ATM at the jail, bailed myself out. I knew I couldn't be in the jail. I was like, I'm going to get killed in here. Like, I cannot be in here. So I bailed myself out. And, man, it just all those poor decisions, I just never had dealt with them. I'd never dealt with even the divorcing my wife and leaving her. I never had dealt with that because I went from that to a new relationship. That relationship didn't work out. So I wasn't even dealing with any of those past problems. I never dealt with them till years later. And it all came crashing down on me when the second relationship fell apart and I lost everything again. That's when I was forced to deal with the problems. And rather than dealing with them, I just drank them. And so got the DUI. I remember sitting in my bedroom. I had nothing at this time. I was living with my two little brothers in a rental house. I only had a bedroom to my name. Coming from where I came from, that was hard. Like I'm literally renting a room with my two little brothers. Like I've had so much more than this before. Like I had no self-worth. And I remember sitting in my bedroom. I went and got my truck from impound, drove it home, and I remember just sitting on the floor in my bedroom on the ground and just sitting there. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, my life sucks so bad. Like, I can't even begin to tell you the depression. Like, and, um, and so I quit drinking for a few months and I don't really remember that time frame at all. I was probably miserable. And then I was like, I can start drinking again. I can start doing this again. I'll be all right. I learned my lesson. I can social drink. So I went to a Jelly Roll concert, and that's when I had my first beer again, and it was on like Donkey Kong again. Before I knew it, I was drinking all day long, every day again, going to the bars all night, spending hundreds of dollars a day on alcohol, and and it just I had no quality relationships. I was dating all sorts of women. I was just it didn't even the relationships didn't even mean anything. I was just wanted companionship. I just wanted someone around because I hated being by myself. I couldn't be alone because then I was forced to think about my thoughts and so it was super challenging. And so then another year goes by and I'm still in active addiction. Had gotten onto this stuff called kratom, which I don't know if you've heard of that before, but
Yeah, the people use it like to get off of heroin, right?
it's terrible stuff. I got really, really addicted to that. Not many people know that. Only my really close family knows that. But I'm a huge proponent for advocating against that stuff. I got severely addicted to that. I was spending $600 a month on it. Um,
And what
it's
does it do for you?
it's basically like opioids on steroids. It's like
Oh,
heroin. It's like legal though. I mean, you can go buy it at
it's
Big
like the same
Smoke.
effects when people do Suboxone to get off of it, but you
Yeah.
take it by itself,
Yep.
then
Yep. So I got introduced to that, and it was just a feeling that I had never felt before. It was just a weightless, invincible feeling. And I once I tasted it for the first time, it was game on. So Then I had my alcohol addiction. I had the kratom addiction, and kratom is super expensive. The stuff that I was using, I was spending $40 a day on it, times 7 days a week, times 30 days a month. It's a lot of money. And I'd zeroed out all my bank accounts, had no money, maxed out. I'd never had a credit card in my life, maxed out a credit card. I spent my last $20 on my credit card on a bottle of kratom. Like, zeroed out my credit card with my last $20 to my name. That's how low I got. And so after my DUI, year goes by, and I'm in active addiction at this time. Like, just didn't want to be around anybody, isolatory, had no friends, didn't want to talk to people, didn't want to nurture relationships. And so I went to go get a Papa Murphy's pizza for dinner, and I never made it to Papa Murphy's. I don't remember what happened. I mean, it was a 2-3 mile drive from the house. I was just going to get a pizza, never made it there. My daughter at the time, she was at home waiting for me. She doesn't know where dad's at. I just disappeared. And so, long story short, on that part of it, like, I was passed out in a parking lot in my car with the keys on, like the motor was on. And I was drunk. I was on kratom. I was just strung out, and at this point, everyone was tired of me. Like, all my family was tired of dealing with my addiction, and no one wanted to, like, my fiance now was my girlfriend at the time, and she was at work, and she knew where I was at because of my location on my phone, and my mom was the only one that could come pick me up or come check on me. Mom's like, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to save him. I'm not going to help him. I'm done. He's going to learn his lesson. And my mom's a great woman, and I have a really good relationship with her, and she decided to come. And she came and found me. Don't remember her picking me up. We left my car there, and she drives me home, and I just like even though I was in active addiction, I literally got home and I saw my daughter, and I'm like, wow, like, I am a piece of crap father. Like, how could I do this to my daughter? Like, I went to go get her dinner and I never made it home. Like, how garbage of a father are you? And so it was like, I was just so far in it. Unless you've experienced addiction, you can't speak to it. Like, you can't. And it's hard to describe it. But once you get that far in, you either rip the band-aid off and go through the withdrawals, or you keep going. You just keep going with the addiction. And not everyone's I wasn't strong enough at the time to go through the withdrawals. And so I wake up the next morning, and I'm just puking and puking and puking and puking. My body's, I was using marijuana at the time. I was using kratom at the time. I was drinking. I was on everything you could imagine. So my body's just jacked up, you know. I was doing anything I could to mask the pain. And so that day, I had to get taken to the emergency room. I went to St. Al's or St. Luke's, sorry, in Meridian. And I was in the hospital for 12 hours in the emergency room. On IVs, all sorts of scans, just miserable pain. I can't even begin to describe to you the amount of pain I was in. And so my mom and my fiance now are telling me I need to go to rehab, and I'm like, I'm not going to rehab. Like, I'm fine. I've always been strong. Like, I've always been, a fighter. Like, I can do this on my own. I won't do it anymore. I promise. And I was just lying to myself. And so, I get out of the hospital, and they had already kind of talked to a couple rehab facilities and kind of understood what the process looked like to check in. And we're driving back home, and my mom's like, you need to go to rehab today. I'm like, I'm not going to rehab. Like, I'll be fine. So then she's like, let me play something for you. And so she gets her phone out, and she plays this recording of me from the night before, when she was driving me home from the parking lot that I was passed out in. And it was of me crying, begging for help, saying I can't do this on my own. Like, Mom, please, anybody help. Like, I can't physically do this. I can't fight it. I need help. And it was, once I heard the recording on my mom's phone of myself saying that I can't do it, I told my mom and my fiance, I said, I'll go to rehab. So I went to rehab. Went for 30 days. It was absolutely miserable. I'd never been locked up before. I had never been told, what to do from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed before. And like, there was all these other people that were fighting addiction that at the time I was like, oh, I'm better than these guys. I've only, used a little bit of marijuana and some alcohol and some kratom, which is legal. Like, I was just justifying everything. These guys are on heroin, fentanyl. Like, I just thought I was better than everybody in rehab. Like, I'm better than all these people. And my head wasn't in it. I was just going through the motions. So I completed the 30 days and I got out. And I was basically like never been sober for ever in my adult life. Even back before addiction, I was still drinking a beer or two at night after work. Like, I'd never been sober ever. And it was overwhelming. Like, I was like, I do not like it. I do not like me sober. Like, I do not like me at all. Like, I don't know how to be sober. I don't know what this feels like. And it was overwhelming, like overwhelming to not be on something. And so when you go to rehab, they give you a bunch of pills. Like, it's like Skittles all day long, just on all this different stuff to manage your withdrawals, to manage your anxiety, to manage your stress. And then when you check out of rehab, they give you all those pills to take home. And so then I started abusing those. I would pop 10 times the amount of anxiety pills that I should have been a day, just to numb myself. But no one knew I was taking them. Like, I was just like popping them like crazy just to get a feeling of being not sober again. And so I was out for 20 days and I was driving with my fiance home and I blacked out. Like, I literally couldn't drive. Like, I pulled over on the side of the road. Like, I couldn't figure out how to drive because I was so strung out on pills. And so I went back to rehab again. And my mom had to come pick us up because it was a stick shift. My fiance didn't know how to drive a stick shift. So my mom had to come. My girlfriend or fiance had to get in my mom's car, drive her car home, and then my mom had to drive my manual home. And I was like, I'm in the same place again, And so I went back to rehab again, but this time I was mad. Like, I did not want to be there. My mindset was even worse than was the first time. Like, I was fighting all the doctors in there, like telling them I'm not doing any of your programming. I'm not doing any of your classes. I don't need to be here. I can do this on my own. And I was meeting with the medical director saying, like, I'm literally going to walk out of this place if you guys don't let me out. Like, I'm going to walk out. And I stayed in my room 24/7. I didn't go to any classes. I didn't talk to anybody. I was completely just arrogant and I'm better than all this. And so I forced myself out. I wasn't in there for 30 days. I was only in there for 2 weeks and fought myself out. They literally threw my bags by the front door, didn't even say goodbye to me. Like, literally threw my bags. I walked myself out. And then it was a long road after that. It was a really long road, but I'd never touched alcohol again, ever. But that was back in, I went to rehab in September of 2023. So September of 2025 was 2 years that I'd been sober. So I'm almost, this coming fall will be 3 years. And it wasn't easy. Like, I'm telling you, when I got out of rehab, like it was hard. Like, I didn't talk to anybody. I was able to go to work and that's it. And then I would come home from work and I would isolate and sit by myself with my fiance there. And I didn't talk to anybody, didn't do anything. I just isolated. I did not know how to be sober. I did not know how to socialize with people outside of being under the influence. Because when I was under the influence, I was happy-go-lucky, like, let's go do something, let's have fun, let's laugh, let's joke, let's go out to dinner. I didn't know how to do anything sober. And it was so overwhelming. And so, yeah, it was a long road. I started going to counseling, and I met a phenomenal counselor, and I'd been seeing her for about 2 years. I just had my last appointment with her last month. I had seen her ever since I got out of rehab up until last month when we both determined that I was finally able to be done because we just ran out of things to talk about. She's like, "You're finally healthy." And so I was able to put that away last month. She'll be a lifelong friend for sure. Um, but outside of going to rehab the second time, I just had to grind. And that's when I found God, you know, um, which I wish God did all these things, put all these trials and tribulations in my life for a reason, because he changed who I was. I was a self-centered person. I only cared about myself and what my needs were. I didn't if I was gonna do something for somebody, it was because I wanted something in return. If I do this for them, they're probably gonna give me like $100, or maybe they'll give me a gift card, or it was always self-serving. And, and then I started going to church. And like it wasn't just like the first week or the second week or even 3, 6 months in. Slowly God started working on my heart and changed me.
What made you want to go to church?
My girlfriend was going to church at Rock Harbor, and so I started going with her. But I was still pretty strung out on anxiety pills, and I was like literally like she has. I mean, you saw some of the videos, but like I was just sleeping through church, like, or I wouldn't remember it, or we'd go to Costco after church, and I would remember going to Costco, and then it slowly, very, very, very slowly. So yeah, September of 2023 was when I had my last drink. So September of 26 will be 3 years. Um, and it all I can say for people that are going through addiction is you have to talk about it. Like it there's probably going to be people that are going to watch this and they might judge me for some of the things that I've said. They might be like, "Man, I didn't know Travis used marijuana, or I didn't know Travis used kratom." At this point, I don't care, because I know who I am today, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what I did in the past. If you don't talk about your past, the only reason I'm talking about my past is because I want to help people that are going through it. Because there's going to be people that are going to hear this or see it, and they're going to relate to what it's like to be in active addiction. And if you don't get yourself help and put God at the front and your family second, you'll never make it. You just won't. It's an itch that you can never scratch unless you actually indulge in the addiction. It's always going to be there. I'm not here telling you that it's not easy or that it is easy to stay away from it. There's days I think about it. There's days I walk into the gas station, I'm like, man, like a nice cold beer sounds pretty good right now. But I remember where I was from and where I came from and where I was at, and I never ever ever want to go back to that. Um and Like just talking about it, it doesn't really do it justice at all of actually what I went through. Um, but I can tell you that like just all those things that I did go through, God only turns up the volume enough to where you can handle it. It may seem unbearable at the time, like, man, I don't think it could get any worse. It could have got a hell of a lot worse for me. He could have turned up the volume a lot more, but he only turned it up enough for me to learn my lesson. And it was a long year's worth of lessons starting in back in 2020 to now, 2023. I went to rehab. I mean, that's 3 years right there. And I wasn't even healthy after I got out of rehab. Like it was a process. I went to a counselor every single week for 2 years just to beat the addiction, because it was so instilled in my brain, I couldn't stay away from it. And even after I put alcohol down, I smoked marijuana for another year after that, because I still didn't know how to be sober. Now I put the alcohol down and my life got a heck of a lot better after I put alcohol down. And the marijuana helped me with stress and anxiety. And it helped me get to where I'm at today. Now I don't use anything. Now I'm completely sober. Um, but even that kratom stuff, I stopped drinking alcohol in 2023, but from 2023 to last July of 25, I relapsed on kratom last summer because the itch is always there. You have to maintain your sobriety by keeping yourself in check every single day. It's a battle for me every day. I don't think about it every day, but I think about it sometimes. And if I'm not in the right mindset, or if I don't go to church, or if I don't keep those people in my life that are important to me close and talk to them, I would probably relapse again. Absolutely. Um, and so it's something that I'll probably struggle with for the rest of my life, but I would just tell people like not to isolate, because once you isolate, it's game over. You're only fighting yourself. You got the devil on one side and the angel on the other, and the devil wins most times with me. And so,
Yeah, what's the what's the worst punishment you can get in prison? Solitary confinement, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I lose every time because you tell yourself it's going to be the last time. And that just makes it easier today because you just tricked your brain. Your brain knows you're lying. Your brain knows you're lying, but you make yourself feel better about it today because you're going to tell yourself today is the last time. Just give it to yourself one more time. You deserve it. Just do it the one more time. And then tomorrow you do it again. You say, today's the last day. And it's never the last time. You just tell yourself that every day and you do it every day, but it justify it. And so the best thing that I did was getting sober, but the most important thing, people go to AA. A lot of people go to AA. For me, AA didn't work. AA, they talk about a higher power, and to people, that's something that could be anything. That could be your higher power, could be anything. It could be your dog. But for me, it's God. Like God literally came in and transformed my life. And I got saved, last year, and I have plans to get baptized this year by my father-in-law. And that basically baptism is just an outward expression of an inward change. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm already saved. If I died today, I would go to heaven. But um, all I can tell people is just addiction's hard, and I would never judge anyone for being an addict. It's an extremely hard thing to deal with. Unless you've walked the walk and you fought it and you got through it, the only person you can thank for it is God. Like, that's the only person.
What was it in your walk with faith that was the thing that helped you the most? I know you started like going slow with your girlfriend, and then did you start like just doing more studying, or what was it?
The music.
Okay.
The music, 100%. I know it seems stupid. Music is the most powerful thing for me. The worship music at Rock Harbor changed my life. Like, I literally have that downloaded on my YouTube music. I love worship music. The music. Now, the messages are great. Music is what changed my life. What type of music do you listen to? I have goals for myself. Like, I was given a guitar for Christmas. Like, I want to be up on stage. I want to share the gospel with people through music. I can't play an instrument today, but I want to learn how to play an instrument, and I want to be on the stage, and I want to get to people's hearts through music. And that's a goal that I have for myself. The music changed my life. And I know that seems stupid, but the music changed it. This what I listened to. Because the music I listened to before, it talked about drinking, addiction, partying, women. And I changed the music that I listen to now. Most of the time, all I listen to is worship music. And there's really good worship music out there. Like, it doesn't have to just be, super spiritual, slow worship music.
Oh no, it's like heavy metal.
It's all out there. And
That's what
some
I
of
listen to
it's
at the
rap,
gym now.
some of it. I have, Brandon Lake. I love that guy. I don't know if you know who he is, but
huge guy.
He's got some rap songs out there. I went to his concert. Music is where I feel the spirit the most. And music is what keeps me sober, which is weird.
It's the one thing that Satan refused to do is worship.
Yeah. And so for me, the most impactful thing was the music touched my heart. Like, my favorite part at church is the music. I love the music. And that's when I feel the spirit the most is through the music. So, but yeah, now it's just I'm a completely different person. I have such quality relationships. And I watched this podcast of Steve-O from the Steve-O guy from
Jackass.
Yeah. And there's a lot of really profound people in the world that are looked up from the world as very successful people that struggle with addiction. I watch a lot of podcasts about addiction, and Steve-O said one of the most the addicts are the lucky ones, because let's say you get cancer tomorrow, and you get cancer and there's a chance you could beat it. The best you can hope for is if you get cancer that you're going to be as good as you were today. But if you're an addict and you treat your addiction, you're going to be better than you ever were before. That's the beauty in an addiction. If you treat it, you're 10 times better than you ever were before. If you get cancer, your hope is you're going to be as good as you were when you got the cancer.
Wow.
And so that message always stuck with me. I was like, he's totally right. Like if you get cancer or some sickness or illness, you're hoping to get back to where you were. That's the ultimate goal. But if you treat addiction, you're 10 times better than you ever have been in your life. And I truly feel that every day. Like I have so many awesome relationships and so many awesome friends that I've never had these like quality relationships before, these intellectual conversations, and now I can remember them all because I'm sober. And like it's it's transformed my life, and now I'm not a selfish person. Like, and that was something I really struggled with, is selfish. I was just wanted, what can I gain? How much money, how much money can I gain from this? How much material items can I gain from this? And now I just call people on a daily basis just to see how they're doing or to see if I can serve them in some way. And that's really all I care about, you know? And I never thought I would get through it, honestly. I thought it was over for me. I really thought I was going to end up in jail. I thought I was going to probably die, honestly. I know that seems extreme, but um I kind of wanted to. You know, I kind of wanted to just something bad to happen to me. I would drink myself into oblivion, and most times I didn't know which route I took home. You know, I would just get home and I'd be like, "Man, that's pretty scary. I don't remember literally which road I took to get here last night." And I could have killed somebody. I could have killed myself, could have killed my friends, you know. But what you find in addiction is all those people that you hang out with, everybody that I used to hang out with when I was in active addiction, I don't talk to any of those people anymore. Not one of them. All those people that sat on the bar stools next to me, they're not there. They're not there anymore. The people that really matter come back when you get sober. And those are the people that matter. None of those people that I thought were my friends sitting there drinking with, having a good time, none of those people are still there. Then once Travis got sober, all those people went away. And it's, you think they're your friends, but they're not. They're just there because they have no one else either, and you guys are just sulking together. And you know, I've reached out to a few of them just to see if I could help them, and it's never came to fruition. It's always flaked out. It's ever worked out. I've invited them over to my house for dinner, and they just never show up. You know, and so you really do find out who your friends are when you get sober, because there's a definite difference. Um,
That's a hard part too, is when you see how much changing has changed your life, and you see the others around you that you care about. Even if you cared about them in a time that was a hard time, you
yep,
want to help them out. And if they're not ready for that, like you say, you can only take them to water. You can't make them drink.
yep,
But
yep,
it's hard. You know, like when I lost all my weight and I, quit my addictions, like drinking alcohol, porn, like just eating everything I could. Like just
yep,
living that lifestyle. Like then I quit it and I was like, oh man, I feel great. And I'm like trying to help friends out for free. Like dude, I'll be your trainer. I'll be your coach for free.
yep,
Like you don't have to pay me. I just want you to feel how I feel. And those are honestly the worst clients ever because if they don't have anything in the skin of the game or they're not really wanting it, it's like you have to be so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you have to.
yep,
Was it Ed Milet has a really good saying, is like when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then you'll change,
yep,
and that's how it is. Like you just got to be so sick and tired that you got to change. There's no other option.
yep, yep. Yeah, sometimes some people in life, I'm around a lot of people in life that it's always kind of been easy for them to stay sober and to live a good spiritual life. Some people it just comes easy for. And then there's other people like me, you got to learn the hard way. But I always tell this to people that ask me about my story. And I always tell them, if God was to come here today and say, "Hey, all the pain and all the trials and tribulations and all the hard things that you've had to endure in your life, I'll take that away right now. You won't even have a memory of it." And I would tell God, I would say, "Please don't do that. Like, please don't, because that cultivated who I am today. It made me stronger, way stronger. And it's like a shield of armor. And if you were to take that away, I wouldn't be who I am today." Like,
100%. It's really hard for other people to understand that.
mm-hmm.
Because I
Yep.
remember when I told my story, my dad was like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I didn't see anything that happened, and I wish I could change everything." And I was like, "Honestly, I don't. Like,
Mhm.
I had to go through everything I went through for a reason. It made me who I am today. Otherwise, who knows? I'd probably be way worse than I was and never wanted to change,
Mhm.
you know?"
Yep. 100%.
And the thing that usually you think is what disqualifies you from helping others is the actual thing that is the qualification,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
Like now you can help other people that are going through those struggles rather than a pastor that's never touched alcohol in his life.
Yep.
Who are they going to take advice from?
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I 100% agree with that.
Have you been able to help other people along the way when they come to you and ask for help? I mean,
Um,
they got to want it, like you just said, but
Not too many people in addiction have come to me for help. I don't know that many people in it. Um, but I know a lot of people that don't have God. And so I try to that's that's kind of where I'm focused at right now is I have a lot of people that are interested in God. A lot of my family, um, they may believe in God, but they don't go to church. They don't necessarily practice it religiously. They don't read the Bible, and so sometimes you can't force feed it to people. Sometimes you just have to live your life in such a way that they're like, there's something different about you. Like, what do you have? And then that opens the corridor for, well, I can share it with you if you would like me to. And so,
do you ever get pushback from your Mormon family?
no, really the only one that really, my mom she doesn't really go anymore, but she still, has a lot of friends that are Mormon, and she goes to church with us now,
Oh, nice.
and so most people in my family, I have extended family that are Mormon, but at the end of the day, I don't really truly believe it matters what religion you are, as long as you understand what the process is to become saved, and as long as you have a relationship with God and Jesus Christ, because it's a personal relationship. No pastor or preacher is going to tell you what that looks like. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Um,
that's what I really like, and I'm glad that I learned is that it's a relationship, not a religion. Like at the
yeah,
end of the day, it's just and the stronger you have that relationship, the more that Holy Spirit's going to talk to you, and you can
yep,
hear it louder. Because that was
yep,
my thing when I started. They're like, just listen to the Holy Spirit. I'm like, how do I hear it? Like I don't
mm-hmm,
know. Am I actually gonna hear like an audible sound? Like what?
yep.
And they're like, it'll just get stronger the more you walk in it.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody for sure, but um, I think God never intended for us to have a bunch of religions. It's just what man did, and we have the Bible for a reason, and if people read it and study it, that's really all you need to know. It spells everything out for you. It spells out the process of what it takes to become saved. It spells out everything, and as Jesus was walking the earth and everything that he went through and the resurrection and all that stuff, it's pretty spelled out for us. But our society and people, what it's just a crazy world, and people make it stuff that it's not. It's like what they talk about at church sometimes. Like, it's pretty clear in the Bible. There's only two sexes, male and female. It's very clear in the
Yeah,
Bible. But man made
right.
it different, and that's what I like about where I go to church and where you go to church is it's all he preaches right out of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It's not he's
Not
reading
other books.
he's
Yeah.
reading scripture, and if you read scripture, it's pretty easy to understand what you need to do, and that's one thing I want to get better about. I don't pretend to be a scriptorian by any means, but I understand the fundamentals of what's in there, and I really do. I'm not good at reading. Like, not that I can't read, I'm just not good at slowing down enough to sit and read. And there's so much value in books, like there really is, and I really want to get into reading. I have so many good books, and I want to have the self control to be able to turn my brain down enough to be able to do that. But yeah, there's you can audible Bible readings and stuff like that. But there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I'm just grateful that I found it, and I have a testimony now, because I didn't have a testimony before. Like I was a kid at church listening to people's testimonies, and they all just sound scripted. Everyone said the same thing, like, I believe this and I believe that. And then the Mormons, we literally every month we'd have a testimony Sunday.
Yeah,
And
I
you
believe this is a true church, the only church.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like it's always the same thing.
4
And
hour long. You're like, oh gosh, that first Sunday of the month, right? Yeah,
yeah, dude. And so for me, it's like, man, like my testimony is built on my personal experiences, not by anything else. Like my testimony and my faith is built upon what I went through. And there's no way that I would have gotten through what I went through and would be where I am at today without God.
yeah.
And so there's my testimony. Like there's no way for me to turn a blind eye to it because of where I was at and where I came from, where I came to.
And it's hard for people to understand that the things you're going through is gonna be what builds you later. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think about Joseph and his story, and his brothers sold him off to slavery. They were gonna kill him, but they're like, no, let's just sell him off instead.
Mm-hmm.
And he went through all that, imprisonment and everything, and he went through all that, and God could have saved him at any point, but God had other plans for him, bigger plans that he just couldn't understand in the moment.
Yep.
But you had to go through all that stuff to get to where you have to go.
Yep.
You know, it's just sometimes it's hard to understand that, but once you do have faith in your life and something bad pops up in your life, you're like, all right, I don't understand this right now, but I know that this is going to build me for something coming up that I can't see,
Yep.
or there's a plan here somewhere. So I'm just going to ride it out.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
So what's next for you now?
Um, so I just got engaged last Sunday.
Yeah, congrats. She
And
said yes, so that's good.
she said yes. And yeah, I mean, life's really, really easy now. Life's really good. I'm super blessed. Um, it's I decided after the prison that I was going to do heating and cooling, and I didn't know if that career was going to work out for me or not. Um, but I've been doing that for going on almost 5 years now, and went to school for that for 4 years. And then I got my journeyman's license in August, so I've kind of reached the pivotal point in that, as far as what the highest achievement you can do in that trade. So now it's just about learning and growing within that, and but yeah, work is work. It's just a part of the process, but it's not the most important thing we do at all. That's just what I do for a living to provide for my family. Um, but yeah, I want to get married this fall, and I want to have, I have a 14-year-old now, but I want to have a couple more kids. So definitely want to have a few more kids. My fiance doesn't have any kids. She wants to have kids really bad, and I would like to have a few more. I think I'll be, not that to say I was a bad dad, but I think I'll be, and I'm a good dad today. Um, but I think once I have more kids, I think I'll be a lot better dad coming out of the gate day one than I was before, just because I have so much more life experience now. So I want to be able to raise a few more kids from just little babies and be able to impact their life and show them what it means to be a hard worker and a godly man, and be someone that when I pass away, that they're going to stand at the pulpit and have good things to say about me. That's all I want, just to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, that was one of the big takeaways I took from one of the books I read, and they were like talking about starting at if you're known to work your way backwards, what do you want people to say?
mm-hmm,
That was for me. Like at the end of the day, I was like, I don't want to just say I worked at a prison for 30 years. Like I went through all this as a kid. Like I should be able to do something else
mm-hmm,
with my life rather than just
yep,
because I never wanted to promote. I was just like, I was not a good officer at all, you know. But God put me in a position too of like when I heard that I got transport, I was like, what? This is crazy. I just put my name on the bucket just to see what happened. But putting me
mm-hmm,
on that bus to go to Coeur d'Alene, that's just a lot of time. And that's where I listened to so many books and
oh
it
yeah,
got me to change my life, just that downtime. And like,
yep,
so God had a reason for me, I
yep,
just, I was grateful to get on transport, but I didn't know why. And now I know
yep,
that's how I was able to, just focus.
yep,
You're stuck in a little
yeah,
officer's cage in the back of a bus
mm-hmm,
for a long time, and I just would put books on and really just contemplate life decisions. A lot of music,
yeah,
um, it was like Christian rap that I would listen to back then, and I wasn't even Christian yet, but I liked NF. So like his songs would just really speak to me, and I was like, oh man, all
Yep.
right,
Mhm.
I need to do something different in my life. So it's
Yep.
just funny how God's got a plan, and you don't even understand what's at work. You just gotta have a mustard seed of faith.
Mhm. Yep.
Just go with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really. Other than that, I just yeah, just I'm kind of just enjoying this phase of like, man, I'm not in control, but everything's so great. Just everything in my life is blessed. My family, financially, work wise, just super blessed.
Have you ever thought about trying to go back out to the prison and do like just talking to the inmates, like as a volunteer or anything?
You know, I I haven't thought about it too much about that specifically, but I've thought a lot about just I feel like God wants to use me for something. I don't know what that is yet, and I don't want to control what that is.
Yeah, I like that.
And so I'm just kind of like in this like
It'll pop up when it needs to
yeah,
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like waiting for it. Um cuz I know it's something. I know it's something that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm just kind of waiting for that opportunity to present itself cuz I do really care about people, and I do want to help others. Like that's really what I like to do. Even at work, we're not talking about God or country. We're just talking about work, but I love helping people. Like, hey, you don't know how to do this in heating and cooling. Let me show you. Like,
Always being
s-
a servant of others.
like
Yeah.
I'm here to show you how to do this. Like, because I used to not know how, and I would love to teach you how. And so anything in my life, I love to just cultivate people. And help people be better. Um, and so I'm just just in this really reminiscing phase of like, man, I can't believe I got here. I never thought I would get my life back, or I never thought I would get a life that was this blessed, because it's just different this time. I've rebuilt my life 3 times now. And this time it's a lot sweeter. It's just a way, I can't even describe it to you. It's just way different, just way more peaceful.
Yeah. Having Christ
And
in the center of it.
yeah, yeah. So,
All right. Well, before we leave, what's a good, your biggest advice for maybe another person going through their own thunderstorm out there, or going through the ringer and wants to make a change, just doesn't know what to do?
I would just tell them to don't be afraid about what other people think. Because in my addiction, I hid from everybody. I didn't want anybody to know because I don't want to be judged for it. And the thing about it is, you got to consider the source who's judging you. And at the end of the day, if you're bettering yourself, who cares what other people think? I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to watch this and be like, oh my gosh, Travis did that, or Travis did this. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care if people are going to judge me, because I know at the end of the day that I bettered myself. And so those people that are struggling with addiction or struggling with things, you can't do it by yourself. You have to surround yourself with good people, and you can't be afraid to talk about it. If you don't talk about it, then you're just fighting yourself. And if you're fighting yourself, you're going to lose every time. And so that's one thing I really had to get over, was the perception of how I was viewed. Because the people that really matter, they know where your heart is, and that's all that matters. Those other people, they don't matter. Like, do they care what you're doing tomorrow? Do they care really about you? No, they don't care. It's just our society is full of drama and negativity. And so if someone can look at negativity and talk about some other person, and to make themselves feel better, you shouldn't worry about that person anyway. You know, the people that truly care about you and have your best interest in mind aren't going to judge you for trying to be like, hey, I am struggling with pornography, or I am struggling with the alcoholism, or I'm struggling with drug addiction. Like, let us help you. And that's all it's about. And you just got to let go of the fact that some people are going to judge you. And you just have to let that go, because the people you want in your corner at the end of the day, they're not going to judge you for it. And that's all that matters.
Jesus was a perfect man, and he still got judged.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
once I really learned that lesson, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just a part of life. People are
Yep.
gonna judge you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be careful of the advice you take from people, though. Like if they're trying to give you like you shouldn't do that or whatever. But then you look at their life. Would I want to change my, or why would I want to trade my life for their life? No, okay, well, I'm probably not going to listen to what your advice is or whatever
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts are if I'm not willing to go where you're at, you know.
Yep. 100%.
But
Yeah.
sweet dude, well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
This has been a great, powerful testimony. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, dude.